Hi there, welcome back to Football-Oranje. I'm Michael Statham, joined by Mike Bell. It's time to talk about some Netherlands games that are coming up. There are four in a row, beginning with Netherlands away at Belgium in the Nations League. Mike, their squad has come out. How are you feeling about this big game? It's a great test for Netherlands and Louis van Gaal in his World Cup preparations. But there have been some questionable choices in his squad, haven't there?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of questionable choices in there. Mainly the ones for Vincent Janssen and Bruno Martins Indy, but
Yeah.
you got to say that it's sort of second last chance for Van Gaal to experiment. So I think this is a good indicator of the players that he's not thinking of at the moment, um, and it gives him a chance to experiment more with his 5-3-2. And because Cody Gakpo's in there, we'll see what he fits into it. But going into this game, it's going to be interesting to see how the 5-3-2 does against another strong, powerful nation in an actual game that means something. Because the last two are friendly, so there wasn't that really edge, even though it was against Germany. But up against Belgium with the 5-3-2, we'll see how it fares against a top nation in a game that actually has some meaning to it with the Nations League. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the four games that they have coming up. But I think the one against Belgium is the one that's the real test to see how Louis van Gaal's system is going to work at the World Cup.
I think you're right. That 5-3-2 is definitely going to be using, isn't he? And the two games against Wales are going to be so preoccupied with their World Cup qualifier that I don't think that that's going to offer a big test. Then Poland as well coming up. We're hoping to actually be at the game for Wales, and we can hopefully let you know what it's like when we're there. But with this Belgian game coming up first, it's the biggest one, isn't it? It's the one which I think fans will be looking forward to. It's a bit of a local derby in terms of the countries. I'm going to hopefully share my screen now and where people can see the team. Can everyone see that, Mike?
Yeah, that's up there.
Yeah, here's a team, and I think there's some absolute glaring misses here. I know you're a big fan of Joe Veerman, Mike, but when you think about some of the players that have been selected in his place, it just doesn't make any sense why this would be. I'd love to hear people's opinions. If they do want to leave their thoughts in the comments on YouTube, or perhaps on the website, we know people leave comments on there too. What do you think of this team, and who are the glaring misses for you? Who do you think should be in that team? Of course, if you want to select somebody, you know that they want to be getting to that starting 11. And I don't know whether Joe Veerman is that, if he now has that chance to get into the squad and then get a starting place nailed down. It's going to be tricky for him to do. He has to really impress at PSV. And you're comparing him to the likes of David Klaassen, I guess, was one of the issues, where David Klaassen has at least played in the Netherlands for the Netherlands before. But I can see that Joe Veerman offers you a bit of a different style on the football. But yeah, it'd be interesting to hear everyone else's thoughts in the comments. And Mike, what are your big ones for you? Who are like the big no-nos who shouldn't be in there?
I think I've already said it. It's the Martins Indy, the Janssen, and even Hans Hatteber. They're the three that I look at and go, why are they
Yeah,
there? Jerry Shooten, I think he's had a great couple of seasons for Bologna. I think he's one of these players that's gone kind of under the radar because he doesn't really pay for a top club in Italy, but he's going to be getting a move this summer. I think Napoli and another couple of top Serie A sides want him. I think he's been great ever since he's signed for Bologna, so I think he deserves it. But Vincent Janssen, it'll be interesting to see what Van Gaal says about it because he's definitely going to get asked during his press conference. Why
yes.
pick a player that scored out one goal in 23 games? It's not even going to be available for the game against Belgium because he's getting married. So it's it's beggars belief when you've got players that are playing in Europe, such as Xerxes or Robbie or even somebody like Boadu, he's not had a great season, but these players are playing in the top leagues in Europe. Then you go for Vincent Janssen, who's not even doing well in Mexico. And even the pundits in Mexico are saying they're scratching their heads at why he'd be picked. So it's a strange one for me that he's actually in there. Like I can see the reason behind maybe putting him in the provisional squad to get him to move back to Europe, but to actually put him in the final squad is a strange one. And Martin Zindi, I guess Van Gaal knows him. He's experienced, but I don't think he's had a great season for AZ. I think
This is what I
defensively has
was
been
wondering
quite.
with Indy. We've been watching him quite closely, and I don't think he's suddenly just stood out in the games he's had. He was once a fine defender, but has made some errors. He's important for AZ, I suppose. But why should that get you into the national team at the moment when there are no so many options?
Yeah, I think that you look at Sven Botman, for example. who's playing
Yeah.
for Lille. He keeps getting named in the Lille's team of the week one team of the week. He's getting linked to AC Milan, and Newcastle's going to get a big move this summer. And he's the future. Why wouldn't you not bring him in to take a look? Whereas you know what Bruno Martins brings, and you know that he's not going to start these games ahead of like Van Dijk and De Vrij, De Ligt. You know, you got Timber there as well. You've got Blind. You know, why bring in Martins into? We already know about him. Like, why not give somebody like Botman a chance to see what he can do? Um, it makes no sense to me on the back of, it's great for Martins to get back in there, and it's probably why he moved back to the Netherlands to get back into the national team. But I don't think he's
Maybe.
been that successful since he's come back to the Netherlands to even warrant it. I'd rather seen somebody like Geertruida
Gertruida?
get a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great in the Conference League final against Roma, even at different positions. So somebody like Geertruida offers you a bit of versatility, which
Yeah.
Manzini doesn't. Maybe back when he was in his 20s, he could play left back, but not anymore. So yeah, it's a strange one. You got to say that we have to trust Van Gaal, but looking at the midfield in this squad, I'd say it's probably one of the weakest midfields we've seen in the Netherlands squad for a long, long time.
Yeah, the midfielders, so there are so few options, but he's so rigid in this formation he wants to play now that Frenkie de Jong is going to start if it's one of the bigger games. Coat Miners is looking good at the moment to start as well. Then you're looking at someone like Klaassen who's going to play as a 10, isn't he? And he's not going to be playing as one of the two sitting midfielders. And now that Wijnaldum's not in the squad, it made you quite excited that it might invite somebody new into the team. And that hasn't happened, has it? I wonder whether Memphis Depay playing as a 10 is finally going to be an option for Van Gaal or not. I'm just going to start sharing my screen so I can see you, Mike. With Memphis, though, people have been calling for him to play as a 10. Is it time to practice that now we've got these games, or do you think that is just not in Van Gaal's mind at all?
Well, we might. So it gives them an option, but you need to think back of when Berghuis was playing for Ajax at number 10, and it came to the Netherlands national team, and Van Gaal got asked about, why don't you put Berghuis at number 10? And Van Gaal basically just shut it down and said he's a winger and he's one of my only options for the right wing. So whether you would now switch that to then go along with putting somebody like Memphis or Berghuis at number 10, which looking at the options would be the better option, because I think if you look at somebody like Till, he started the season on fire. He scored loads of goals, but second half of the season, he's not been that great. He's had some injuries. The recent games he's played for Feyenoord, he's not been scoring as many goals. He wasn't great in the final against Roma. He got taken off deservedly. So you got to look at players like that and think he's not going to be ready to start at 10. David Klaassen's not even a guaranteed starter for Ajax. So why wouldn't you put somebody like Memphis, who has played there for Barcelona this season and did well there for Barcelona when he did get a chance there, and test it out? So to have somebody like Memphis at 10 and then Gakpo and Bergwijn ahead of him, I think that would work really well with the creativity, because looking at that squad, Memphis is the most creative player in there. So if you're going to look for somebody to create chances, it has to really be him.
The thing for me with Hatpo is why he's been chosen in the squad when he plays as a winger all the time for PSV and is really rather untested, I think, in a two striker format up top. He has played as a false nine. I get that for PSV occasionally. Do you think that Van Gaal wants to use him in the same role? Or is this perhaps when he switches to a 4-3-3, which he has spoken about before, when he's playing a team when they're not going to have lots of the ball, or if they need to switch to a 4-3-3 immediately? Have those wingers been placed in there just for that situation, or is Hapo going to play as a striker?
I think he'll test them out in the 5-3-2. I think he'll definitely try it. We've seen towards the end of the season where Zahavi was on the bench and Gakpo was through the middle. Didn't necessarily work for me, but in the Netherlands with 5-3-2, if you're trying to fit somebody in like Gakpo, you've got to see how you do in a 5-3-2 alongside Memphis to see if they can create that partnership, because I've already seen that Memphis and Bergwijn seem to be a duo made for each other in the last two games. So then he tried it with the second game against Germany. Was it? He didn't start with Dan Juma. He started with somebody else up front on Memphis, and it didn't really work as well. So I'd like to see Gakpo give him a chance to do that. Whether he'll succeed there, maybe not, but it gives him the option because we know Gakpo's great on the left wing. So if he does want to go 4-3-3 against, say, Wales or Poland, or if Belgium take the lead and he needs to try and stretch it out and go three up front, then he's got those options because a fluid front three like Memphis, Gakpo, and Bergwijn, they can all interchange and they can all play in every single position there. So it gives him that ability to swap and turn them around because every single one of them is played on the wing and every single one of them is played for the middle. So that would be an interesting option if you went 4-3-3 with those three because the defenders wouldn't know which one if they kept switching around positions to try and confuse the back line. So I think that would be interesting.
The thing for I had with Gakpo is he is a winger, and I know that he can do some things as a striker, but he is most effective when he's out wide and cutting in to bring people into play or to shoot or to cross from out wide. He's got one of the highest crossing stats in the Eredivisie. It just feels a bit odd if you then play him completely out of position. But I know that when you're playing for PSV and you're in the Eredivisie, you can also play as a striker. I just think it's a bit untested in that position, and he might only be used as a winger if necessary. But Van Gaal will have his own ideas and his own plans. He's a clever guy. He knows what he's doing. The only thing I want to ask Mike then is, what do you think this starting 11 might be against Belgium? It's got to be, I think, Van Gaal's main calling card 11. I think it's got to be strongest 11 at this point, but one that he may want to try a couple of different things out in. For example, Malacia at left back could be a great time to try that. I hope he doesn't go with Blint at left wing back for this game. What do you think will happen?
I mean, what I hope will happen and what I think will happen are two totally different things. So
as always when it comes to the Netherlands.
Yeah, I think he's like everybody's Marmite. Either love him or hate him, but I think Daley Blind is going to start in there. I think back three wise, I think he will try De Ligt, Van Dijk, and possibly Timber. The only thing that would maybe change that is if Van Dijk's had any issue with the Champions League final, because he was injured before that game and he came back for the Champions League final. So if he had any sort of knock from that, then he might go with De Vrij in there instead of him. But I think a back three of De Ligt, Van Dijk, and Timber, I want to see how that would work, and I hope he does go with that. Then Dumfries on the right, Blind on the left. I think you're right with Frankie and Koopmeiners starting in the middle, and then again, I hope it doesn't happen, but maybe Davy Klaassen will be at number 10, and then up front will be Memphis and Bergwijn.
How can Klaassen get a spot in the starting 11 of the Netherlands, though? After the season he's had with Ajax. He had some good late games this season, didn't he? But overall, does he deserve it? I see what you're saying entirely, that you don't want it to happen, but you think it might. And I've just looked at the team again to believe what I'm seeing. How is Hostil still getting selected? He's tailed off so much the second half of the season, and he's still getting in there. Do you think it's a bit of a sympathy thing from Van Gaal? Maybe like what he saw last time and just wants to keep him in there, keep him in the fold? What is it?
I think there is a sense of, he said it the last couple of times with squads, he doesn't really want to bring in new people if he doesn't have to. So he seems to be set with his squad, because I think anybody that watches their Eredivisie, if you watch PSV and Feyenoord and you went, right, which midfielder do I want in my midfield? You watch the two of them, you've got Joey Veerman on one side, Gus Till and Elliott, you're going to go with Joey Veerman because of what he offers, his assists and goals, whereas Gus Till is goals, but not very many at the moment. So for me, it's a glaring miss not to have Joey Veerman in there. And yeah, I tweeted out basically, I hope somebody asks him, I hope somebody goes, why isn't Joey Veerman here? And somebody like Gus Till is, why is Vincent Janssen here? Why are you picking players that aren't necessarily on form when you've said that form is key, and that's why Van Adem's not there, because he's not playing? So why is it one rule for somebody else, not for some people? Like, if you're not playing well, you shouldn't be able to get into the national team. So it bamboozles me sometimes where I don't see Joey Veerman's name in there. The only thing I can think of is that you maybe asked him and Joey Veerman asked not to be there. I know that's what's happened with Jordy Classy. Jordy Classy's pulled out because of not wanting to be there. And maybe Joey Veerman wanted to wait or wanted to be on holiday, or he's got other plans. He's not been called up. Only Van Gaal can answer that. So it'll be interesting to see the next couple of days when Van Gaal does his press conference and he explains some of these decisions. But I think everyone that was looking at that squad knows that this isn't the strongest Netherlands squad he could have picked, and there is 2 or 3 players that have been left out without any reason given so far.
And what test do you think that Belgium are going to give the Netherlands? It's a Nations League game. It's not a friendly, but it's also not a massive game, a massive competition. Do you think they're going to give the Netherlands a real stern test and one which the Netherlands will, I guess my point is, when you play Belgium, they can sometimes give you a real good game, or sometimes they can, because it's a friendly kind of game. How much do you think they're going to put into this, and what are the key battles do you think you're going to see?
So I'm just picking up the Belgium squad because it is basically a glorified friendly, but it is still a competition that Belgium will want to do well in, and they've also got to prepare for the World Cup, because I think the thing that's leveled at Belgium most of the time is the fact that this is their golden generation of not being able to do as much as what.
That's that for years, haven't they?
Yeah. So the likes of Hazard, the Lukaku's, the De Bruyne's, players like that, what they don't have is an international trophy to put next to their name, which would, with the squad that they have, that's what you should be aiming for. So maybe something like the Nations League will give them that boost going into the World Cup. So I think I can see them being up for it. And looking at their squad, it's packed with talent still. I think looking at defence, I think the defence is somewhere that Netherlands could get at them. You've still got Alderweireld there, Vertonghen, Denier, Boyata, older players. Wout Faes, I think if we all remember, he used to play for Excelsior. So defensively, maybe Belgium we can get at them. But looking at them going forward, they've still got Kevin De Bruyne in there. They've still got Tielemans, Lukaku on his day can play. You've got Hazard still in there, Dries Mertens, Batshuayi up front. They've got enough talent to give Netherlands a big, good game. So defensively they're going to have to be sharp and be at their best. And especially midfield, where that midfield battle of Kevin De Bruyne against Frankie De Jong is going to be one that's going to be interesting to watch. So I think this is a big test for Netherlands. I think that Belgium at home could be one of the strongest nations Netherlands could have faced. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Netherlands can play against them, because I think that 5-3-2 looked good against Denmark, looked less good against Germany, but he still managed to avoid defeat. And this is another real test of Van Gaal has, how many days? He's got about 3 or 4 days to get them playing well enough to face a Belgium team that have some players that are really in form. De Bruyne is coming off a great season with Manchester City. You see what Courtois just did in the Champions League final against Liverpool. He was in the form of his life. So they've got some really, really good players in there. But I think it'll be an interesting game. I think the Netherlands will definitely score, but it's how many can they keep out. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game with chances at either end, and hopefully an entertaining one. And hopefully Netherlands can get a victory, because I think if they can beat Belgium away with this formation, it kind of solidifies Van Gaal's opinion that 5-3-2 is good going forward.
It's more a trial of his formation again, isn't it? How they can play against a big nation. And you're right, he might want to go and prove a point and show the system really does work. A high scoring game, I'm doubtful of that myself. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it was 0-0. However, yeah, we'll see what happens. I just think some of them, like De Bruyne and Courtois, they've come off these massive games and big highs lately that would this game give them that zip and that willingness to do well for the whole of the Belgian team. If there's a few that are thinking this is kind of a friendly, then they might not have the oomph about the game. But I hope you're right, and I hope it's an entertaining one. And if Van Gaal is proven right yet again that he can now get his formation working, then I think Netherlands fans will be very happy with the 2 Wales games and the Poland games to come up as well, that they can have a really good international break. And it's nice that we've got 4 games at the end of the season, despite the fact that there's no Euros, no World Cup, but there is this to have before the summer break. I would love to hear from anyone in the comments what they think the game will be like, what you thought of the predictions of the starting 11. Do you agree or disagree with them? Do you think Van Gaal's going to do an absolute wild card again? do let us know in the comments. And yeah, we'll definitely do a live stream after the Belgian game and the ones that are going on thereafter as well. Thanks for watching.